There's a couple big MLB series going on this weekend. Obviously, I think it's only right that we start with the Yankees. The New York Yankees are hosting the Oakland Athletics. The Yankees are one game up on Baltimore after a dominating win over Toronto yesterday, in which Ichiro got another hit or another couple hits, and he's the first player or Yankee player ever to get like 7 straight hits or something in 7 straight at-bats.
Yeah.
Something crazy like that. I heard that when I was walking out the door of my house today. I'm like, wait, what? I think that's pretty crazy. And that's what they grabbed him for.
He's been on fire the last few games.
And you know what? You got to hope that he carries that into the playoffs because that's what they brought him in for. They didn't bring him in to hit home runs. They brought him in to be a guy that can, bring runners in scoring position, steal a base here and there, get you a leadoff single, do things to get runners on base and runners off of base without having to hit home runs. I mean, that's pretty much why they made the trade to get him. So the Yankees are up one game up on Baltimore, and then Oakland actually trails Texas by 4 games in the AL West, and then they lead the Angels by 4.5 games in the wild card. This will be the Athletics are the second team are taking the second wild card spot right now in the American League.
Well, they're technically tied with the Orioles, I believe.
Okay. What I'm going to do right now is I'm going to bring up my Hunt for October stuff so that way I have it in front of me. But, I mean, you got a good matchup. I know CC Sabathia pitches tonight against the Athletics. I'm not really sure the other pitchers for for this weekend, but I can find out very quickly. Fry, you got CC Sabathia versus Jared Parker tonight. Then on Saturday, you got Blackley versus Nova. And on Sunday, you've got Griffin versus Kuroda. So the Yankees get to pour out Sabathia, Nova, and Kuroda. I think you got to like that if you're a Yankee fan.
We got to take 2 or 3.
Oh, yeah. If at this time of the year, where the standings are at and everything, I definitely agree with that. That connects into the other big series I don't want to call it big, but it has impact, and this is all what me and you talked about earlier this month about Boston playing spoiler.
Yeah.
The Baltimore Orioles head to Fenway Park this weekend, and either they can give the Yankees a nice separation in the AL East, or they can keep Baltimore nipping at the Yankees' heels like they've been doing for the past month pretty much. I personally don't think Boston can beat Baltimore 2 out of 3. I'd like Baltimore taking 2 out of 3, but that's more based on the fact that I think Baltimore's confidence is just through the freaking roof right now. I really do. Baltimore is giving Miguel Gonzalez versus John Lester on
How bad
Friday.
has Lester been this year?
I'll tell you.
No, he's been bad. You don't got to tell me. He's, I think, like 6-12.
Right now, he's pitched 30 games. He has 187 innings pitched, gave up 109 runs, 103 earned runs.
Yeah, but the big number there is what's his win-loss?
The win-loss, he is 9-12.
9-12.
With a whip of 1.38. His opponent's batting average at 271 and an ERA of 4.95 on the year.
And he's supposed to be the ace.
That's not good. Not good at all. But I will say, his last game, he may not have won, but he only gave up 4 hits, only 1 walk, 7 strikeouts, but he did give up 3 earned runs. The Boston lost 7-4 to Tampa Bay in his last start. So, I mean, it's not like he didn't put up some decent numbers in that game, but still, I mean, Boston all around, though, is just inconsistent and a team that's hard to rely on, to say the least. That's for sure. So you got that, and then in the Saturday game for Baltimore and Boston, you got Chris Tillman pitching for Baltimore against Aaron Cook. And then on Sunday, you have, hold on, I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen, there it is. Actually, Baltimore is still undecided on who their starter is. And then you got Felix DeBrant right now scheduled to start for, Felix DeBrant scheduled to start for Boston. I've never even heard of that guy before.
I've heard of him. He's, 11-10 on the year, something like that.
DeBrant is
12-10 on the year.
right now. He's 11-9.
11-9.
Not bad. You're as close as you're going to get. 5.08 ERA. Can't say you really like that one, that's for sure. But, I mean, he's played in 27 games, so it's not like he hasn't had a chance to make that better, and he hasn't. So, but it's I'm telling you, I really think it's a Boston thing more than anything else.
I hope they have as much passion to try and play spoiler for the Orioles as they would against the Yankees.
Is the hatred as big, though?
No, nowhere near.
I didn't think so.
Nowhere near as big.
You said they're both... I cut you off. Sorry about that. You were going to say they're both...
No, they're both big series this weekend between the Yanks and the A's and the Orioles and the Red Sox. I mean, you could really see a shift in where teams are by the end of the weekend. You
really could. I mean, you figure... let me get the standings in front of me, but... If you look at it, and between Oakland and Baltimore right now, they are separated by nothing. So you could be talking the difference in home field and being on the road just based on this weekend. You could be talking the difference of maybe Oakland taking the number one playoff spot, the number one playoff spot, and the Yankees going from AL East leader all the way down to the number two wild card spot. I mean, there's a lot of scenarios that can unfold from this based on, how things have gone over the past week or week and a half or so. I got to say, I like the Yankees taking 2 out of 3, and I like Baltimore taking 2 out of 3. So, in my opinion, I really see the AL East and the wild card pretty much being exactly where they are, other than the fact that Baltimore might actually leapfrog. Baltimore will stay put. I'm sorry. I thought Baltimore had the second wild card spot for a second. So, big series with big impacts, ladies and gentlemen. I mean, we're down to, let's see. Baltimore has 13 games left. The Yankees have 13 games left. The Athletics only have 13 games left. AKA, after this weekend, there's only 10 games left for these teams. So, these games are huge. Now, like I said, Oakland trails Texas by 4 games, leads the Angels by 4.5 in the wild card. Yankees are 1 game up on Baltimore. And then Baltimore and Oakland are tied right now record-wise, but Baltimore holds the tiebreaker, hence has the number 1 wild card spot. Another big series that I looked at for this weekend, you had Atlanta at Philly. Philly is only 4 games out of the second wild card spot right now. Now, Atlanta has a 10-game lead on Philly, but Philly only trails St. Louis. Well, now it's 4 games. When I did my notes last night, it was 4.5. So I guess maybe when I was done with this, one of the games ended. So Philly only trails by 4 games to St. Louis, where Atlanta's pretty much locked in right now. I think that they're 5.5 up on St. Louis for the number 1 wild card spot. So
Atlanta's locked in.
Yeah, I don't think Atlanta's moving. So this series means more for Philadelphia than it does for Atlanta, but don't sit there and try to tell me that Atlanta doesn't want to win these games and, put Philly out of the playoffs. If they sweep this series, Philly's is 7 games out with 10 games left. I can't see Philly's covering that ground in that short period of time. And Atlanta trails Washington by 5.5 games. So, I mean, you can't say that you don't see Philly maybe or Atlanta trying to make a move for the division. I just don't see that happening. I don't think Washington's going to blow 5.5 games with 13 games left, but you never know. That's why we watch the games. That's why you play them. But I think this could be another fun series to watch, even if it's just strictly for the division rivalry aspect of it. Yeah. And Atlanta trying to ruin Philly's playoff hopes. And it's in Philly, too. So the fans are going to be out there supporting their team. They're going to know the impact of these games. So expect a wild crowd. When it comes down to your pitchers this weekend, you have, you got Atlanta's bringing out Tommy Hanson against Kyle Kendrick on Friday. Then you've got, they move these games around on me when I look at the schedule, and I'm trying to find them. Here we go. You got Mike Minor for Atlanta and Roy Halladay for Philadelphia on Saturday. So I think I like Philadelphia's pitching matchup on that one. And then Atlanta's bringing out Tim Hudson to play Cliff Lee on Sunday. That should be a great pitching matchup. Sunday's game could be a lot of fun to watch. I like that one. I didn't know that was the matchup they had. And then I only got one other baseball series this weekend that really stuck out to me that has a big impact on where we're at in the wild card and the playoff races. and that's the Chicago White Sox are at the Los Angeles Angels. The White Sox lead Detroit. Let me make sure I'm right because I just noticed that I did these before they maybe updated the standings. All right, yeah. So Chicago White Sox lead Detroit by 2 games in the AL Central. And then, like I said before, the Angels are only 4.5 games out of the wild card. So, big impact. Detroit, I think, is rooting for the Angels. Even though they're fighting the Angels for a wild card spot, I think winning the division they would prefer anyway because then they don't have to play a wild card game.
Yeah.
So I definitely would say Detroit's rooting for the Los Angeles Angels in this series. Their mindset is probably screw the wild card spot. We'll take the division. Now, the interesting thing is, though...
The Tigers, I don't think really have a legitimate chance to get a wild card spot. I mean, there's only 2 weeks left in the season. I just don't think they have enough time.
And there's 6 games out right now.
I don't think they have enough time. I think they have to go for the division. I mean, they're 2 games out of the division. It really isn't out of reach. You know, we're kind of kill the White Sox season, but
Hey, you know, it's funny, too. The one thing that stuck out to me was they played each other earlier this week. I think they had a series over last weekend that wrapped up on Sunday or Monday. And that was actually the last game they played against each other all year. And for the, Detroit Tigers, that sucks. Because you'd rather, the head-to-head is your quickest way to make up games.
Yeah.
And that sucks. But that's how it is. And now you're sitting here and... Like we said, they only trail them by 2 games. Each team's got 13 games left. Each team's got 7 home games and 6 away games. Looking at the schedule, you've got Chicago with the Angels, Indians, Tampa Bay Rays as their next series. And then Detroit's got Minnesota, Kansas City, and Minnesota again. So... Based on looking at the schedule, I think I like Detroit's a little bit better.
Absolutely.
So
love to see the bottom of the basement, come to your town.
Yeah. So I mean that's and they don't. Detroit's at home until next Friday. Is the next time that Detroit goes on the road. So I mean, out of all the divisions, you got the AL East and the AL Central is the only 2 that are really worth paying attention to because I got to agree with you. 6 games to make up to get a wild card spot.
Too much. There's only 13 games left.
Yeah, so that means you got to make up 6 games.
That would mean even if the Tigers swept out and they won 13 in a row, that the
White Sox would have to go 6 and 7.
Being that they're out of the wild card.
Sorry,
wild card, it would be that they would have to go 6 and 7, and that would be just a tie.
Yeah. So that's. So bottom line is, if you're rooting for Detroit to make the playoffs, you need Detroit to win the division. Hey, let's be serious here. Now, anything can happen, so let's not sit here. I'd say there's a 5% chance they pull off a wild card, maybe even smaller.
Smaller than that.
But either which way, their safest bet for the playoffs is win the division. One way or another, though, they got 13 games left, and you got to figure they've got to win at least 8.
Sounds like they got a favorable schedule too, playing the Twins twice and the Royals. Really aren't teams that are going to give you too much of a fight. You got to go out there. You got to play hard every day. Cabrera's got to keep up the pace he's on. A lot of people are still calling for the Triple Crown for him. He's really got to come through in the stretch here. Same with Prince Fielder. I mean, they have a lineup.
They have the talent, yeah.
They have a lot of talent. They have a lot of pitching, too, with Verlander and Valverde closing games. They can do things... that a lot of the teams can't do on a consistent basis, but for whatever reason, it's just one of those years where a team like the White Sox just plays
a little more consistent.
Above and beyond, yeah. It's just one of those years.
And you know what? In my opinion, this just means more for me and you to talk about, so I ain't complaining. And the interesting thing is, Chicago's out to Los Angeles for the weekend, while Detroit stays at home and plays Minnesota.